Last night, old friend Alex Van Oss, who those of you who have been NPR listeners for decades will remember. Alex was, in fact, Alex, I think, produced a segment that we did from Uganda back in 1980 or 81 on Thanksgiving Day. I was in Famine region, and that was the Thanksgiving special for National Public Radio. And we've kept in touch over the years, and so anyhow, last night he came over and watched the TV show, and we went out for dinner. We were looking for a place where we could watch the president's speech. We went over to the Hamilton. We had called them, and they had said that they could put a TV on the president's speech. But when we got there, they said, no, we're going to watch soccer. And then we walked down to M&S to see if they maybe, but they were out of business. We called over to Ellis Pizza, and they said, no, it's a soccer, big deal. So we were walking down F Street, between 13th and 14th, which is in the neighborhood of the TV studios, just totally bummed out. And here's this little Italian restaurant that was like mostly empty. It's relatively new, that had MSNBC on their TV screen. And we walk in, and they're playing the audio over the sound system, getting ready for the president's speech. It was like, just like dropped into our laps. And so we had a nice day, and they had a gluten-free pasta even. I mean, it's like, so we had a very, very nice dinner and a great conversation, and we paused it to watch the president's speech. And my take on the president's speech is that it went something like this. My fellow Americans, poison gas is bad. I watched movies of little kids dying. I'm horrified. I've apparently never seen people die in war before because this totally grossed me out. I must not have seen people die of napalm. I've apparently never seen anybody shot, flopping around, screaming and squirting blood. I've apparently not ever been in a war zone or anywhere near one because this video of people, foaming at the mouth and dying within a matter of hours so grossed me out that I think I need to drop missiles on Syria. And you need to watch it, too, because it'll gross you out, too. And then he went on to say, but I don't want to do it today. And in fact, I don't even want Congress to authorize it today because maybe I can work out something with the Russians so that we can get this chemical stockpile under control. And if so, we'll have done it because I was such a tough guy. That was my... Oh, and by the way, killing kids with gas is terrible. That was my takeaway from the message. I have to believe that the president has not seen the pictures of the children born with birth defects in Iraq as a result of depleted uranium. I mean, the library of those pictures now is huge. The highest birth defect rate in the world. And many of these children die on birth or die within the first year or two of birth. That he's not seen people die from gunshots. And dying from a gunshot, by the way, can take a week or two. I mean, it can take a long time, particularly if there's an infection and it's painful. Typically when people get shot, they don't go and fall over. They scream, they flop around. Depending on where they're hit, they're squirting blood or not. I mean, it's. I don't get it with the poison gas thing. I mean, I do get it that, we had thousands of people on the battlefield and the Germans dumped this poison gas back during World War I and like 6,000 people died all at once. And we said, hey, wait a minute. We don't mind killing off soldiers one at a time with a gun or a bayonet. That's kind of sporting. But to kill 6,000 people with gas, that's not sporting. That's like saying, I'm going deer hunting today and I'm taking an AK-47. No, that's not sporting. I'm going duck hunting with my 50 caliber machine gun. No, it's not sporting. I don't think they make a 50 caliber machine gun, but you get my point. So you got to have a duck plug in your gun, and you got to have, there's rules, right? There's rules for killing in hunting, and there's rules for killing in war. And so we said, if you can kill 6,000 people that fast, we're just not going to let that happen. And then the United States had been using napalm like crazy. Lawrence O'Donnell last night did what I thought was probably the best piece he's ever done in the history of his show on television, His Last Word. And it's worth going to lawrence.msnbc.com and watching Lawrence's Last Word segment from last night, because it's all about the history of the United States inventing and using napalm, and how During the Reagan administration, the world was so horrified by our use of napalm that they said no. And the UN put out this treaty, and pretty much everybody signed it except us. Reagan didn't sign it, Clinton didn't sign it, Bush didn't sign it. Obama signed it on his first full day in office. Water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. Napalm burns at 800 degrees Celsius. Napalm burns through the skin and burns the muscles of living people. About a little less than half of the people living in Dresden during World War II were bombed by our napalm. The residents of Tokyo during World War II were bombed by our napalm. We dropped hundreds of thousands of tons of napalm on Vietnam. I mean, there is no, what the president was basically saying last night, in my mind, was there's an appropriate way to kill people. And there's an inappropriate way to kill people. And I'm sorry, I don't buy that. You know, I get it that the generals want to have their rules of war. They want to say, hey, you're going to fight a war, but we're not going to use our super weapons because that's just like, hey, the war might be over tomorrow. Right? You use a nuke or you use chemical weapons and all the soldiers are dead. And that war only lasted one day. That's no fun. We want the war needs to last a year or two so that people can work their way from lieutenant all the way to general. And you get a lot of battlefield promotions and you get ribbons and stars. And look at all this stuff on my chest when I'm on TV. I'm not being facetious. Rules of war. Come on. War is mass insanity. War is disorganized murder. There is no clean way to kill people. And we are encouraging war and violence in Syria by arming the rebels, including Al-Qaeda. And of that 100,000 people who have died, somewhere in the neighborhood of roughly half of them have died because we've been arming rebels who cut people's beating hearts out and eat them on YouTube videos and shoot, captured Assad's soldiers in the back of the head while they're whimpering with their faces on the ground with a foot on top of them on live YouTube videos. I mean, you want to watch YouTube videos? Watch those. Watch the rebel videos as well. I mean, sure, go ahead and watch. Absolutely. Watch the kids being gassed. And then look at the pictures of the kids in Iraq. And talk to somebody who's actually been in combat. There's no such thing as a good war. There may be a necessary war. If you're attacked, you may need to fight back. There may be a necessary war, but there's no good war. So anyhow, that's my my rant on that. I also thought it was weird that the president last night noted that the last time there was a large-scale use of chemical weapons was when Saddam Hussein gassed the Iranians in the 1980s, and didn't mention the fact that President Ronald Reagan not only knew it was going on and supplied Saddam Hussein with satellite photos to tell him where to find the Iranians so that he could drop sarin gas on them. President Reagan did this. And we did nothing. We said, sure, go ahead. And did crossing that red line cause the whole world to start using chemical gas? No. And we sanctioned it. We helped it. And Reagan did nothing. Well, actually, he was proactive. He was on the side of dropping chemical weapons, poison gas. Why didn't Obama mention that last night? Well, it's the, don't pick on previous Republican presidents thing. Glenn in Kettle Falls, Washington. Hey, Glenn, what's up?
Hey, Tom, how you doing?
Good.
You forgot about white phosphorus. I think it burns at about 2,000 degrees. It has to be cut out by a knife or it'll burn its way all the way through you.
Yeah, right. And yes, we have used that as well.
Okay, my thought about your topic today, is this just another sideshow to take our involvement with the coup that just happened in Egypt off the screens?
Or to take Ed Snowden off the screen, or to take...
Ed Snowden, yeah. He's sitting comfortably in Russia.
Russia, yeah. Or to take the wind out of the sails of the Republicans who want to, blow up the country again and destroy the middle class so that they can blame it on the Democrats.
And you grew up about the same time I did. You know what happens to the black bully, and it scares me for my grandkids.
Yeah.
Because we may have some of the most best technical weapons in the world, but we can't even get an army right now. Nobody's joining.
Yeah.
I think the last thing I heard, the Pentagon's spending like $1 billion a month on advertising.
Well, Germany, it doesn't surprise me. It's an enormous amount of money, but they've got a huge budget. But, and Germany's out there saying, hey, that gas might not have even come from Assad. But even if it did, let's assume that it did. I don't think that our involving ourselves in that civil war is the appropriate response. We should register a loud complaint at the United Nations, period. End of discussion. Let the UN deal with it. And if they don't, like they didn't with Saddam back in the 1980s, so be it. We'll be back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
CNN, by the way, found that a little over 2/3 of the people who watched the president's speech last night now agree with him. I don't get it.